About it. Okay. Let me share my screen. Wait, am I sharing my screen right now?
No, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Oh.
I think you can now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I am recording this. And I guess I'll upload it to YouTube and you guys can watch it later. But so here we have our call stack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing, just to make things simple, more simple than they are, I'm gonna put these two in the same array. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to call the truth counts with this array, right? And that goes on the call stack. So what is going to be our return value here, right? Our return value is going to be counter. So let's keep track of what counter is, right? So counter is going to be 0. That's what we start with. Let element is r of I, okay? So now we're keeping track of this element. If array.isArray of that element. Is that true? It is true.
Yeah. Yes.
So now we're going to do, let me make arrows. So now we're going to do 0, which is the counter, right? It's now going to be plus equals to the truth counts, and we're going to pass in an array of 0. So JavaScript says, hold on a second. You're trying to plus equals a function invocation, right? So we have to pause this function, and then right on the call stack, we do the truth counts of that array of 0, right? So what happens now? We have our counter, and we initialize it at 0. So we're looping through that array. Is that element an array? Absolutely not. It is just a number, right? So we skip this if and go into this else. So else if element, right? So if it's truthy, is 0 truthy? No, 0 is not truthy, right? So we do not increment counter here. And then, since that's only one thing in that array, we break out of the for loop, right? Because we made it to the bottom of the for loop, we don't iterate anymore, and that's it. So we just return 0, okay? So this whole time, now this is done, so this whole time we were doing 0 plus equals what we just returned, a count of 0. So our count is still 0. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So now we can continue over here, right? We just did this. We broke out, we went on line 6. Let me delete all this stuff. We went on line 6, added that 0 to the 0. We skip over the else because we went in the if. And now on our next iteration, we have another array. So what do we do now? We pull out that element and we check if it's an array. It is an array. So we do counter, which is 0, plus equals the truth counts, and then we pass in, what is it, true and 10, okay? So JavaScript says, hold on, we have to run this, so we put this on the call stack, right? Now, we initialize counter to be 0, and let's loop through this array, right? We take out the first element, we check to see if it's an array. True is a boolean, it's not an array, so we'll go into that else. If element, if true, true. So we do counter plus equals 1. So the count is now 1, right? Then we go to our next iteration, we check 10, is 10 an array? Nuh-uh. So we'll go into the else. If element, if 10, 10 is truthy, any number that's not 0 is truthy, right? So we go into this if, and we do counter plus equals 1. So we do 1 plus equals 1, right? So counter is 2. There were only 2 things in this array, so we break out of the for loop, and we return counter, which is 2, right? And now since we return 2, this whole thing is gone off the call stack because it returns something, and we just found out what that returns, and that returns 2. So this whole time we were waiting over here to add to that counter, which is now 2. And since that was the last element in that outer array, we skip over that else, break out of the for loop, and we return counter, which is 2. 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense now, right?
Yeah, just one small question. How do we get counter 0 when we hit the 0 in the array and in the element? First time when we run first time.
Over here, why is the counter 0?
Yeah.
Because that's what we initialize it at, right?
Right.
So we make it.
So counter.
So we make.
So with 0, yeah. So with 0 we plus and reassign 0 to 0, right?
When we come back, yeah. So the first time when we come back out of this inner array into the previous thing, we do 0 plus equals 0. We're still doing something, right? Except when we went in and looked at this array, there was just nothing truthy in here, right? So if this didn't run, then we never altered what counter was, and counter was 0. So we just returned 0. So we just plus equals 0. Every time you find something that's falsy, you're just going to be plus equal and 0. Because that's what we initialize counter as.
Okay, I see. That part was not clear enough. Okay, now it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All good?
Yep.